Is it possible that something from your past, dare I even use the word trauma, is holding you back in your online business? Now, I know that thought might seem a little crazy, but I recently had an experience that proved that that was true for me, and it might be true for you. And I'm going to share it in today's episode. Welcome to the Affiliate Guy Podcast. If you want to grow your income, serve your tribe, and enjoy all the benefits of affiliate marketing and having your own affiliates, you're in the right place. Thanks for joining me today. Now let's get started. So today's episode is a little different. It's a little bit introspective, actually. And over the next, 5 to 8 episodes, I'm going to share some of the lessons that I got, as I have over the past couple of episodes, from my experience at Blackberry Farm. And for those of you who don't know, Google Blackberry Farm and just look it up and see this place. It's just an amazing place. It's right on the edge of the Smoky Mountains National Park. It's out in the middle of nowhere. 30 minutes from Knoxville, Tennessee. It is just an unbelievably beautiful place. I'll share some pictures here shortly on social media, and you guys can check those out. So go check them out. Seriously, you should see these. And it was me, Jeff Walker, Michael Hyatt, and Amy Porterfield, and then our spouses, and then a couple of Michael Hyatt's team members. And I guess to put this place into perspective, the ambiance of this place sets a certain tone. There's a pace to this place. In fact, I joke that I've never been an astronaut, I've never been to space, but I can imagine in some small way, I just went through what they go through in terms of re-entry. After spending 4 days at this place, I would imagine my blood pressure was almost dangerously low. There literally is no stress. They do everything for you. All you have to do is bathe yourself and dress yourself. Everything else is taken care of. The food is unbelievable. And then the atmosphere and just being able to go around this place and go for hikes and see and sit in these rocking chairs out by a fire, to go down by the stream, to go fishing, to just be in this environment. And then on top of it, to be with these people who are all, and we'll talk about this in a future episode, they're significantly older than me. My wife, Tara, is 2 years younger than me. She was the youngest person there. I was the second youngest person there. Everybody there is much older than me. And I mean that in a nice way, and to say they're more experienced. They have a lot more experience than I do. And quite frankly, they're more successful than I am. And one of the things that we'll talk about in an episode coming up is just this concept of me realizing I don't have to be where they are, where I am. At the age of 39, I don't have to be as successful as they are in their, late 40s, mid 40s, early 50s, early 60s. I don't have to be there yet. But the environment of this place just set itself up for a conversation that took place that brought up this idea of trauma. And I won't mention names, but one of the people there shared how she had, when she was young, she had a friend, and if I remember the details, in a speech class who was so nervous that she ran off right in the middle of her speech and went to the bathroom and cried and sobbed and all these things. And that left a scar on her. And so fast forward years later, she's being asked to be a business leader, and she can't speak in public, to the point that it was terrifying. They say that, speaking in public is everyone's, biggest fear. It's worse than sharks or cancer even, But I think there's different levels. I'm nervous when I speak on stage. I always have been. And if you've ever seen the movie Old School, there's a scene where like Will Ferrell delivers, Will Ferrell's dumber than a brick in this movie, but he delivers this like speech about some complicated scientific or historical thing, and he sounds a genius, and he like almost passes out, and he just, wow, where did that come from? I don't know, man. And I've delivered speeches, especially early on, back like 15, 16, 17 years ago, where I would speak, and then I would be like, oh my gosh, I don't even remember what I said. I literally was in this like alternate universe, right? So I think we all experience a certain level of nerves, perhaps even a fear of speaking, but most of us can do it. Even if we're nervous. Well, this wasn't the case. Like, she was terrified. And so she had to go through this process of getting therapy for it, and including medication, and going through this whole process to be able to overcome that so that she could speak on stage. And I remember thinking, wow, what a powerful story, but I don't see the application to my life. And then the next day we had a mastermind lunch. So this lunch was a smaller group of people, about half as many people. And it hit me when we were talking about the biggest thing facing our businesses. And I've known for 2 years, the biggest thing facing our business is hiring the right team. And many of you listening aren't in that position yet. Yeah, don't worry. I wasn't either when I was, 1 year into my business or 2 years into my business, definitely not months into my business as many of you are. But I realized that was the biggest thing. That was what was keeping us from scaling. We've kind of plateaued over the past couple of years after some furious growth. And I thought about it, and it hit me, and I remembered her story, and I went, oh my gosh, I know what's holding us back. It's not the intellectual knowledge of how to hire or how to even lead. It's trauma. Because years ago, in December 2003, me and two guys started a company. Typical American startup. Above the CFO's garage, just the three of us and a programmer overseas. And then we hired an assistant for me, part-time. And then she became full-time. And then we hired another person to do customer service. And then we hired a sales rep. And then we hired another customer service person. Then we hired another programmer. And so forth and so on. And I'll never forget that we finally had to move into an office, and it was a 600 square foot office. And I was like, oh man, this will last us forever. So 6 months later, we needed to move. And we moved up, and we were going to move across town, but we decided to move upstairs. But the reason we wanted to move across town was because it was the perfect size for us to expand like we thought we would. The place upstairs was massive. There's no way we would ever need that much space, we thought. So 8 months later, we needed to move again because we were out of space, and we moved down the hall, and now it was truly just too massive. So about 6 months, 8 months, 9 months later, we needed more space, and thankfully there was an attorney, a legal office, a law office that was, I think they went out of business or something. I don't know. Say thankfully for us, and we took over their space. Well, then we needed more space, like just a few months later. And long story short, is this kept happening, and we had 52 employees. I was in my mid-20s. I was a young punk. And what I realized was, so when I was in that position, I thought I was supposed to get all the trappings of our success. So I wanted the corner office, and I got the corner office. I wanted all the nice stuff, and I got all the nice stuff. I had power over about 15 direct reports. And actually, I had more like about 5 direct reports who each led other people. But still, 15 people under me. And I don't know how else to say this, but I thought I was a badass. I mean, look at me. Like, I'm 26, 27. And I mean, look, I'm leading a $15 million a year company, and we got an offer at one point to sell for $54 million, and we laughed at them. It was our biggest competitor. We were the largest privately held company, and our biggest competitor who was owned by a publicly traded company, came in and offered us $54 million. And we just laughed. Like, we didn't do it to their face, but we laughed because we're going to be worth so much more than that in a few years. And instantly I would have, literally have been worth $13.5 million. So I own 25.1% of the company. So $13.55 million, whatever the number was. And the reality was, though, I sucked as a leader. And so there was trauma. And it's a deep scar on me. There's a deep, deep scar of leading poorly, because ultimately that failure in leadership is what many things led to the downfall of the company. But certainly one of the big ones was my failure to lead. I was a terrible leader. So now, 12 years later, I'm afraid to bring on more people. And so that might not be your trauma, but it got me thinking that most of us probably do have something, some big thing, some traumatic thing that is holding us back. I don't know what it is. Was it a parental struggle? Was it growing up in a certain environment? Like, I think back to how I grew up. For most of my childhood, I grew up with a single mom who, quite frankly, didn't make very much money. She worked 3 jobs. And I went through some trauma. That trauma is actually, like, when I assess it, that's not what's holding me back. I'm very thankful I was also exposed to other sides of things. My grandmother, my dad's mom, was very well off. My grandfather, we have pictures of him with presidents and world leaders, and they traveled the world. They used to, they have coat hangers, these amazing wooden coat hangers that I actually, this is the one thing I inherited from her. When I say inherited, I mean, asked her if I could just take them with me. Everything else was left to my dad. And when he passed away, everything was left to, my stepmother. But I wanted these coat hangers because we have these coat hangers from like places like Blackberry Farm. It's like these amazing resorts in San Francisco, Chicago, Montreal. There's one from Paris, London, Edinburgh is how they pronounce it, Dublin. There's some from Munich. I've got one from Munich. There's some from Vienna. Got one from Vienna. There's one from Bern, Switzerland. All over the country, all over the world. And so I was exposed to that side. And that's what kind of saved me from that, getting into that mentality, that lower class mentality. Maybe that's your trauma. Maybe you grew up in an environment where, your parents were kind of like in this revolving door of employment. I don't know. Maybe it was, the trauma of another failed business, or, in the case of this person, watching a friend fail at something. And that left trauma, that left scars on you, and those scars are holding you back. I don't know what yours is, but I would encourage you that if you feel like you're stuck, and if there's something that's keeping you from making that leap, whatever that leap is, your first sale, if it's growing your email list, if it's being able to go from making a couple $100s a month to going full time, whatever that leap is that you're failing to make. Ours is we've just been stagnated for 2 full years, both in terms of revenue, in terms of passion, in terms of joy, in terms of impact. We have been stagnated for 2 years. And it hit me, and I got really angry because I was like, I don't have many of these years. Statistically speaking, I'm roughly halfway through with my life. I can't waste another 2 years. That's not an option. So I've got to work through that. And so I don't know what yours is, but I would encourage you to dig deep. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to hurt. Like, it was a very emotional experience for me to realize this. But now, for the first time, now that I know what the issue was, I know the next steps. I know how to work through it. I know how to get help. And I know that we're going to come out on the other side very shortly and be able to make those movements that we need to make as a company that are going to allow us to expand our influence and our reach and, of course, our finances in ways that I probably couldn't even imagine 5 years ago. So do the work, dig deep, and I'm not asking. Yes, I am. I was going to say I'm not asking you to go seek out trauma, but yes, I am, because I'm willing to bet that if there's something holding you back, there's an underlying reason deep down. So seek it out. Be willing to get uncomfortable. Be willing to go through the pain, and like this person that shared her experience, she got up on stage. And it was a beautiful thing. So I encourage you to do the same. And with that, I will see you in the next episode. Thank you so much for listening today. Remember to check out all of our deep dives into affiliate marketing at theaffiliateguy.tv. And if you have a question, you can ask it at asktheaffiliateguy.com. Who knows? Might end up being featured on this podcast.